Fantastic. How you guys doing?
We're doing pretty good.
Yeah?
Good.
Let me get this
Tired.
up here. I'm just going to bring up the chat real quick so I can talk to all these lovely people.
Absolutely.
Talking about me.
Talking about love, my friend. This week we're talking about RPGs, actually. All right.
What's the difference?
Love or RPGs? Oh, maybe we'll have to debate that. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 10. We're double digits now, the Legacy GamesCast. With me is the usual suspects. I got Shazam, Frank or Given a Fly, and Andreas or Narzel, and I'm Nick or Sovereign Dude. And today we're going to be talking about RPGs, and we're going to do we call it our best of series, where we just pretty much debate what we think the best of something is. So that being said, let's dive right into it. So we're going to go around the table, just kind of everybody we took a week off, so let's talk about what we're playing and what we're doing, and then we'll dive into the actual discussion of the show. Shazam, what's going on this week, man?
So, guess what, guys? I just got into Gold League on Overwatch with the help of actually Nick over here, Sovereign, and a couple of our buddies. They actually escorted me through a few games, and I managed to get up there. Feels good. Feels like I accomplished something. In any case, I've been playing a little bit of that, but I also got my new computer up and running, and last night I totally downloaded a bunch of Skyrim mods and just went to town. Like the third time I've done that. And I don't know, I always have these great expectations. I always go online and I see like a YouTube video where they're just like all max, super realistic, like 4K, Ultra HD textures. And it looks amazing, and then I put it on my computer, and I don't know, I just feel empty afterwards because, I don't know, maybe it's because I played Skyrim so many times already.
Yeah.
But like I go into the world and yeah, I feel empty inside because, I don't know, it just might be because I've seen it all before, and no matter what dressing up happens, it won't change the fact that that game is just over for me now. Anyway, that's all I got.
Cool.
Congratulations.
Frank, what's going on, man?
Thank you.
A lot has happened over the last couple weeks. I finished Breath of the Wild, and it was incredible. 125 of the best hours I've ever spent playing a game. So that inspired me to go and toss some money into some streaming equipment. You can see my $3.50 green screen behind me. I got an
Nice.
Elgato. I started streaming my Zelda series, and just tonight I was streaming Destiny, so I'm getting back into that too. It's been a fun couple of weeks for me.
That was fun to see you do that. I got to catch some of those streams. I watched the VOD. I never played Zelda, so it was cool to get to kind of...
I saw it a little bit too.
I found out yesterday, I thought this game was an RPG. Forever.
Yeah.
I thought there was like an inventory screen and level ups and stuff. Nope, it's...
In Zelda 2 there is, and that's my next video. I'm still disappointed. In my first video, I learned a harsh lesson about the automatic copyright pings, where it muted parts of my stream, and so that... Well, not the stream, not the live stream, but the VOD. And there were key parts where I was giving the history of the game and this and that. They got cut out. But whatever. It is what it is. But from now on, so now I've been recording with OBS and putting up those versions of the videos on YouTube, so they'll be there so you can watch them. But Zelda 2 is up next, and that's the one game in the series that does have a lot of RPG elements. There's leveling up, there's, magic, things of that nature. So it'll be fun.
Looking forward to it, man. Makes work go by a lot quicker when I have that playing in the background.
Nice.
Narzel, my friend, what's up?
I've been going back to Destiny once again, and despite its many flaws, I still love it, that game, so much. And with the new Age of Triumph update that brought back all the raids, it's been total blast. Except when you have to spend 3 hours on a boss because you can't kill him.
You definitely...
That's not fun.
We're your chosen method of venting when that happens. So it's always entertaining.
Yeah, everything.
It's always easy to tell when you're in the raid, because you're just like, I don't know why it's so difficult to do this. It's pretty funny. That's cool, man. I'm glad you're having fun with that. The Age of Triumph update just came out too, so We actually came out last week. We didn't talk last week. So
Looking forward.
Have any of you guys played it?
I
Have
do.
you guys played that yet? Well, yeah, on Arsel, you definitely have. You guys jumped in on that.
I
yet?
got in for it for one day, and I don't know how you feel about it, Frank, but I mean, my issue is I have two issues with this. One, everything's going away. So Destiny 2 is coming, and they launched the hype trailer for that, which was awesome, by the way, and I got really excited. So seeing replaying the old stuff I put so many thousands of hours into, I kind of was like, I want the new stuff. It's like I want new experience, and instead of getting hyped. But the thing is, I really could have fun in the new update. But the issue is that I don't want to go on an LFG group, like a looking for a group. It's a website that matches players together to experiences. And all the new content, you have to do that. You have to have 6 people together. And my desire to play does not meet that expectation. So if I had all you guys online and like a couple other friends that I knew, I would be totally down to instantly play it. But the issue for me is I don't want to do it with a bunch of strangers who argue and bicker, in my experience.
Yeah, I admire Andreas for having the strength of character to deal with LFG because LFG it's a torture rack. It's bad. But no, I spent a little bit of time with it. The most fun I've had, easily, I think the only real time I spent is a couple things with Andreas. Tonight in PvP, we're doing some of the weekly bounties. The other day we did the Nightfall together. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, it remains a game it's at its best when you're with friends. But for me, my thing is I still have some things I could complete. You know what I mean? Like I would love to leave Destiny 1 with a 1.0 KD. I put myself in a major hole in year 1 because of how bad I was, and I'm still digging out of it. I'd love to have that happen. And I still have a lot of gear that's not at 400 that I just want there for completionist sake because I just want to do it. And I would love to get back into the raid, but for now it's just like, yeah, I'll pop in every now and then. I think I'll continue to pop in on Friday nights, but I'm not going to grind away. I'm with you. I want the new stuff.
Yeah, bring on the new. Cool.
Yep.
Ready to move on.
Well, I've been grinding Overwatch, and I've been really getting into the strategy of it and getting better. I feel like I've gotten a lot better at that game, and I've been playing a lot of tank roles in that game. For those of you that are not familiar, you have your damage dealers, your tanks, your healers, basically the 3. There's some specialists in there too, but I love like the get behind me or like the I got you mentality that tanks bring in that game, and so I've been having a lot of fun with that and playing with like the same people over and over, so we kind of get to know each other's strategies and how to play. I've been playing a lot with Shazam and a friend of ours, and she's a healer and I'm a tank, and Shazam kind of bounces between DPS and healer, and so it's fun to like be when you have healers on your team in that game that are with you and you're the tank. You feel like you can't die, which is so much fun. Just going there. I mean, Narzel and I played 2 weeks ago, and I one of the characters has a giant hammer, Reinhardt, and Narzel was just healing me, and I was just clobbering people. That's the only way I can describe it. It was so much fun. There's actually a pretty hilarious video up on the YouTube channel up for one of the best plays I've ever seen. I guess go check it out.
The best.
Yeah, it's incredible.
You gotta be warned.
Oh.
It's not.
Yeah, context might be necessary too. But
you're gonna roll your eyes. The play of the game thing is broken. So at the end of every Overwatch game, it says play of the game, and there's like this algorithm that says who did, like how, it figures out a 30-second or less clip of what it feels the highest scoring person got. Like maybe it's a triple kill or a quad kill or something like that, and the game, the censor of it, is broken somehow, and so it gave me this stupid play of the game where I literally am just dicking around and like teabagging and hitting the ground and I accidentally kill one person, and it's pretty funny because like some people got robbed. So I don't know what happened there. Check that out on our YouTube. Let's move straight into the juicy topic. We're gonna go around the circle again. We're going to start with Narzel, Andreas, and I want to hear your 3 favorite and RPGs of all time, and a quick why, but not like just a quick little like paragraph blurb of why.
Okay, so it's a tie for the number 1 spot, but I would have to give it to the Dark Souls series because it drops you in a world and it doesn't tell you anything. So you can choose who you become, so to speak. Better than, let's say, a Elder Scrolls game, because that you're told who you are usually in that game. You're the Dovahkiin, you're the hero Kvatch. I don't know what you're in Morrowind because I haven't played that much.
Traveler.
So
No, I know what it is. I'll cover that later. Don't worry, it's coming up.
And as for my second is the Elder Scrolls series, as I just mentioned. I first played Oblivion, and I just loved that game back on the 360. I played it so much. I played it more than Halo, and I didn't think that would be possible back then, but I did. And the last one is probably the Diablo series, just because I've been growing up with it almost, and I love the lore in it.
Did Diablo? I will say all of Blizzard's lore is so good, but Diablo lore is pretty cool too. Like I played Diablo. They just did it like last year. They did like a final update for Diablo 2. Like that's how good that game is. That it's still people are still playing it. It's crazy. Anyway, go ahead. Yep. Sorry.
And the funniest part about Diablo 1 that I played was I played it on the PC 1, PlayStation 1, and it had a Swedish dub. That is horrible when you go back and listen to it now. But it was the coolest shit when I was little. I was like, this character is so cool. Now we go back and listen to this, all sound like they don't want to be there and record their voices.
Oh no!
They just want to leave.
I was always curious about that because, like, you always hear like there are foreign translations of all these different games and all the characters. You hear like the Spanish version of, like this is off the top of my head, but like Admiral Adama from Battlestar Galactica or something, and he sounds a little bit different than he's like necesitamos something. It's like he sounds like that's not how he sounds in the regular show. It doesn't sound good to me, but does it sound good to the people it's intended for?
Yeah.
So like I've always wondered that. Good to know that it was very disappointing for at least the Swedish side of things.
Yep.
So Frank, what you got for us for top 3 RPGs?
All right, so I've wanted to give some honorable mentions to recent ones. I have been enjoying Final Fantasy 15. I had enjoyed the hell out of South Park, surprisingly. The Stick of Truth. It was actually a really good RPG.
Oh, that had like an inventory system?
Oh, it's absolutely an RPG. Yeah, and it's actually pretty good. And for the 3DS, Bravely Default was a traditional Japanese RPG, which leads me into what mine are, which, shocking, are all Japanese RPGs, and all of them either came out on or began their life on the Super Nintendo, which was just, if you like that style of RPG, that system had everything. I love it. It started its life on Super Nintendo, but it ended up on the PlayStation. Obviously, Final Fantasy VII. Lots of people mention it. It was the first one to go into 3D space. It was the first one to move beyond, the sprite graphics and everything of the Super Nintendo era. So it holds, not just being a great game and a, epic in scale and how many hours you put into it, but it holds a really strong nostalgia value because it was that first game to really step beyond what we were used to for several years on the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, the standard top-down RPG, so to speak. And it really took it to the next level and set the stage for, a lot of games down the road that tried to follow in its footsteps. What would be my second favorite is probably Secret of Mana, which is more of an action RPG.
Never heard of it before you said that.
Before I started babbling about it.
Yeah.
It's like a blend of a Final Fantasy Japanese type RPG with a Zelda type experience where it's, all of the battle is active. You're not bringing up a menu. Well, I guess you are, if I remember. There are menu commands that you can throw magic at these at the creatures or whatever, and it's just a robust game. And I love the music. I love the graphics. Everything about it was really, really just, it's just fun. And like I said, that nostalgia factor is there. I just remember playing this game and just being blown away over and over and over again. I'm really excited. They're releasing all 3 games in the series on the Switch, and I really hope they port it to the US, because the 3rd game in the series, it came out at the very end of the Super Nintendo's life, and it was never localized for the States. So I'm really hoping they put in a translation and they put it here, because I will absolutely buy that game. It's apparently so good, I might even consider doing it, even if it's in Japanese. I don't care. Even though I can't read a lick of Japanese. And finally, and the one that really, it kind of sets the standard for when I go back and play any type of game, it's the type of role-playing game I always enjoyed growing up, and that's Final Fantasy VI. It was known as Final Fantasy III here in the States for a long time, but it was actually the 6th game in the series. And the world was huge. The story was perfectly written. The primary antagonist, I mean, he was basically the Joker. He was like a court jester. He had a twisted sense of humor, and he was just basically trying to become a god and destroy the world. And in a way, he did. And it was just, I mean, you start the game and you have fan service, where in a lot of these Final Fantasy games, I think all of them, they throw in characters named, at least the localization does, they throw in characters named Biggs and Wedge, from Star Wars, which is nice. So you start off with these characters and you're walking through the snow, and it's using, the Super Nintendo's Mode 7 graphics that gives it like a fake 3D. It was really, really revolutionary at the time. It really pushed the system, and I adored this game from top to bottom. And I know there are people probably listening to this and screaming at me right now. I know I need to play Chrono Trigger. I know I'm going to play it. It's allegedly the best RPG of this style of all time. It's, I think, the producer of Final Fantasy with the producer of Dragon Quest and the artist from Dragon Ball Z, all collaborating together and putting together what is widely considered one of the best RPGs of all time. So I have to play that. I have it on 3DS. I will. But those are my games. Shocking. They're all older games. I know. I'm a one-trick pony, but there you have it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was
Sure.
it called Final Fantasy V because you're using the Imperial system over there?
No. Always gotta take a dig at us. We deserve it.
We do deserve it.
We never give anything to you, so it's fine. I'll go real quick and then give the floor over to Shazam. My top 3 RPGs of all time. I'm just gonna name series instead of like specific games, but I will give some honorable mentions. For me, it is number 1 is Mass Effect, this 1, 2, and 3. And the reason there is I don't think I've ever played a game that had such good character development and good characters that I grew to love and to have really enjoy having these conversations with them, and you get to know. I don't think that's ever been, other than one other of my mentions, ever been done so well in a game. And it's really a shame that Frank and Andreas, you guys didn't get to play it when it was coming out, because now it's all like, these are the best games ever, go play them, and you go to the first one and the gameplay is really crappy. But when the first one came out in 2008 or 2009, people were like, yeah, people are saying this game's pretty good on my MySpace or whatever, right? And we played it, and the first one I was pleasantly surprised, and I think that's how you fall in love with a game, is you are first pleasantly surprised. And the second game had the best characters of any game I've ever played in my life. The character development, you're building your squad and you get to have these conversations. And I've never actually, and those games almost ruined me in a way. That dialogue in the Fallout games and the Skyrim feels boring to me because it's less cinematic. But the dialogue and the conversations in those games are incredible, and the universe is fleshed out to almost on par with a Star Wars, Star Trek style universe. It's just that people thought of everything. And then the third one, people griped about the game, but I still it was so good, man. There's so many, I've never felt that many emotions during a game that were directed at how I felt, instead of thinking, if you look like The Last of Us or something, where I said, wow, I'm really sad about that. that's really heartbreaking. It wasn't like the way it was Mass Effect, where it was like, no, like, we're gonna make it through this because I want to fucking keep you alive as a team member, so I'm not gonna let that happen to you. I saved the game, don't you fucking worry, Garrus. So like that was the number one. And number two is by the same company, KOTOR 1 and 2. I think that Daniel and I will have some overlap here because of growing up together and experiencing these games. I remember calling Daniel about Mass Effect when I like played farther ahead than he was, and I was just like, I can't, no spoilers, man, but holy shit. Like I remember that. And then KOTOR was also the same thing. Like these characters get developed, and they're so interesting. And that
What
was
is KOTOR?
Knights of the Old Republic, made by BioWare. It's actually available on iPhone, and it plays really well for like $5. If you guys are looking for something to kill time during a flight or something, download it. It's like a lot like Mass Effect, only it's older, so the gameplay is turn-based, so you queue up your attacks and stuff. But really just interesting plot, and one of the best plot twists in any game of all time. Like just blow you away plot twists in that game. And I think that like Mass Effect was like, that game just had such good characters and such a good story and really good villains in both of those games. I think that in order for me, like, I need to feel like whatever I'm dealing with is worthy of this, this sense of urgency that the game's trying to throw at me. And both of those games, or both those series rather, have that. And my last one is a throwback to the first game that I ever poured exorbitant hours into, which is Pokemon Red and Blue, the first Pokemon games. And I remember it was the first game system I ever had. It was a Game Boy Color, and I put in so many hours into Pokemon, it was just so exciting to me to have all these opportunities. I'd never experienced a game like that. So there's a nostalgia factor there, 100%. But it also came out when I was a kid at the same time that the related anime series was like dubbed over and really popular on like the kids TV networks over here. So there's this huge hype and immersion around Pokemon. I haven't been a Pokemon fan after that. Like I haven't like followed it, and I wasn't in a Pokemon Go or anything. But I just remember having such a fun time, like with my Game Boy at lunch or recess when I was a kid, and all my friends had Game Boys, and we were trading and battling and stuff, and I was kicking ass with like abusing glitches and shit. Those are the days. So those are my three, and yeah. If you no easy transition there, Shazam. If you want to just take it.
No problem. So yeah, there's some overlap with me and Nick because we did do a lot of gaming together as we grew up. But so I guess I'll just not pretend like I have any different opinions. But the one on the top of my list is something that Andres actually already mentioned, but he said the whole series, and I said we'd come back to this. Morrowind was the third game in the Elder Scrolls series.
It was.
I had not played.
I always thought it was the first.
No, it was not. There was Daggerfall. There was a few more.
Arena.
There was
Daggerfall.
Arena and Daggerfall, and there was like another expansion, right?
Redguard or something like that.
Right, yeah, like Hammerfell or something. But anyway, I didn't get into those. They were just too old. But I dove into Morrowind as like my first real RPG. And it was just crazy. There was so much stuff. My buddies were talking about it in middle school. I was in middle school around the time where it was coming out, and people were talking about it. They're like, I heard the conversations being like, oh, dude, you can go and you can steal this guy's suit and you can go wandering around in the desert. And I was just like, well, that sounds okay. But I think at the time I was like super into Halo when it first came out, and I was just like, I'm in that road, But then like then I actually got into it. Like I was just like, this is not sci-fi, like this sounds like stuff that doesn't involve aliens or guns, and I'm like, nah. But eventually I did get into it, and like you just jump into that world, and I think there's something that separates it from Oblivion and Skyrim, all the new ones. Because like many older games, they were just like you drop into it and do as you will. Skyrim was like, okay, you start in with the story, you're coming in, you can follow this guy. Oblivion was similar. There was people talking at you and telling you you're the, something special about you and all that. But in Morrowind, you just woke up on a boat, and there was this other guy with you, and he was just like, "What's your name?" And all you had kind of in the beginning as kind of an inkling of your relevance to the story was that there was this Daedric god, which is part of the lore, but she, it's like this quick voiceover for like 15 seconds, like, "Fear not, you have been chosen," or something. So when I got into the game, I just went off and did whatever I wanted. Like, I don't think I even realized there was a main storyline. I just went out and just started going around to all these different places. And unlike Oblivion and unlike Skyrim, there's so much variance in the landscape in that game. Giant mushroom trees, this wall that held off this evil lands where there was this blowing wind and it was all red, and there's this fiery mountain, and then these islands, tons of different things. And also, I think the defining thing was that there was no people specifically talking at you. There was just text boxes. It was during that period where it wasn't a text adventure game, but it wasn't a fully immersive voice acted game. People would say, "Hello, how are you?" And then what they actually said would be in blocks of text. And personally, I think that allowed the whole experience to be a lot richer. And for the generation these days, I don't know if they would agree with that, but I think the fact that I could decide exactly how these characters were in my head, I could use my imagination a little bit. And also, I think because the developers were not overburdened with having to make sure that the dialogue sounded exactly right here and there, have the right person talking about it so that they inevitably would have to get 5 people doing all the different character voices. I think that leaving it up to my imagination really made it sink into me. And as a result, I just am still in love with that world. And I go back to games like Skyrim and Oblivion, and really any kind of open world game. Like, I'm thinking about getting The Witcher 3, just to see if I can get a piece of that. But I feel like I won't ever again, just because it really felt like you were in this crazy world, and it was highly immersive. Just tons of awesome stuff. So yeah, I still think that that's the best one. Behind that was just KOTOR 2. I really love the KOTOR series. I think it was the best Star Wars series so far in video games.
Hands down, man. I don't think anybody would argue there.
Yeah, I don't think anybody could argue. If you haven't played it, please play it. Like, that's a game. I don't do this much, but with games, I feel like that is one I will preach at you. Please go and play it. Like,
yeah, both of those. I'll second that, man. More so than like even like Mass Effect, because the gameplay is more timeless because of the mechanics were super simple. Like it's like turn-based RPG fighting.
Yeah, turn-based, but I think the difference between me and Nick Sovereign was that I played KOTOR 2 first. And then I think I got some spoilers on KOTOR 1. I think that Nick probably told me. But yeah, something like that. In any case, I liked KOTOR 1. I thought it was good. But KOTOR 2, I still, even after knowing what the first KOTOR did, it did a lot of awesome stuff. And I feel like it's a huge bar to set to say that KOTOR 2 was cooler than KOTOR 1 was, because there's so much stuff. And it might just be my personality, but in KOTOR 2, they explored a few things that weren't just mystifying, because they already covered that in KOTOR 1. There was a lot of awesome Jedi Force mystery, ancient Sith, all this beautiful, beautiful stuff that just really stacked a lot of intrigue on top of the Star Wars universe that I still haven't seen anywhere else, even with the new movies. They're getting there, but it's
not
still
even close though, man. Like that.
Yeah, it's not even close.
Better than the movies by far.
It's true.
The expanded universe, both the games and the books, were always better than Lucas's friggin' brain.
And he started it. Isn't that weird?
It's incredible. Yeah.
But anyway, just to kind of like summarize my whole opinion on that, there was this one scene that I'll never forget in that game that I don't think spoils too much. But you're on this city planet. It's called Nar Shaddaa, actually. And you're with this master. She's the mysterious person. Everything is mysterious. And you walk into this one scene, and you have the option of helping somebody who's in trouble. I think they're getting attacked by thugs or something like that. And throughout all the games, if you played any of BioWare's games, Dragon Age, Mass Effect, all of these have these light side, dark side, Paragon, Renegade dynamics that you can choose one way and you go more good, choose another way, go more bad, etc. But so in that situation, you can choose the good thing and you can help this guy out. And then I just remember afterwards, it skips to a cutscene after you help this guy. Because I was like, oh, this guy needs help. I'm going to give him money, or I'm going to tell these guys to back off. Whatever I did, I don't remember. But then the master, she comes to me and she talks to me about ripples. And she talks to me about the intricacies of the Force and how the Force moves through life. And then she talks about how even if I had good intentions in that situation, how it might have, it might cause issues later on. And then sure enough, it cuts to this guy who I did help. He actually ends up in like this spontaneous circumstance, ended up getting a couple of people killed or something like that. And it's just like, I saw this scene play out, not a new theme in the whole philosophy of good versus bad, and things aren't what they appear to be, but I had not seen anything like that in a game up to that point. And furthermore, I feel like it just got way deeper than most of these kind of games, even these Star Wars games even get. And I saw that and I was just like, oh, that's actually serious philosophical stuff. Like this is not something that you usually see in a game like this. And that just really stuck with me. And the game just evolves further in that way, and I just think it has a beautiful atmosphere. So KOTOR 2, number one, beautiful game. But last one is I also agree with Nick. Mass Effect 3. I think in contrast to all the Mass Effect series, I think Mass Effect 3 was the most emotionally developed one. It has the most at stake and stuff. I just was blown away by that game, just emotionally. I got super attached to the characters. But the one that kind of touched me was kind of this one. I haven't played too many RPGs, to be honest, but one I did play was, Lord of the Rings, The Third Age. And it's just another Lord of the Rings game. Came out, 2005 or something like that. It was for the Xbox. And I was playing it with my buddy, Travis, actually Nick's buddy too. And we were going through this game, and it's just like Final Fantasy style turn-based stuff. You have a group of people, and you can like add people to your squad, take them off, and you're traveling through this world. And basically the whole story was just that people were like coming together in this fellowship that was like, basically it felt to me like the B team of Lord of the Rings. like you have like this guy, he comes in and he's like this grizzled guy with a sword, and his name's like Bellegrand or something like that, And then this guy with a bow and arrow comes up. His name's like El Ghost or whatever. I forget what his name was. Then there's this elven chick who comes. There's romance. And so like all these kind of people come up, and then you end up fighting the Balrog literally just after the Fellowship finished fighting the Balrog, and then like Gandalf is like running out the door, and he's like, "You guys need to keep fighting the Balrog while we go out." Like it was literally just like that. Like it was just like you're just literally following these guys. But it was fine. But like it was, like the story was okay all over the place, but it was all right overall. But like, I really was impressed by like the whole infusion of the Lord of the Rings atmosphere into the game, because you have these special attacks, like you work up your experience right on each of your characters, and they get cooler and cooler things to do, and then because you have a whole turn to do everything, you get a chance to show them doing their thing in the coolest possible way. Like you have one specific block of time to show them attacking this guy, so you can make it as cool as you want. And and that's the one cool thing about those turn-based RPGs. So like I just really thought it was cool. Like when the one guy did it, like I remember there was one thing called like Ecthelian Wrath, and the guy would lift up his sword, just give out like nah, like scream, and it's like the that sword ring. If any of you guys have watched Lord of the Rings, when they do like pull the swords out. Or sometimes when the swords are just sitting there, they'll just start ringing in this beautiful magical way, like just to tell you that they're magic. But, then there's like a flash of light going swing across the blade, and I was just like, whoa. When I was like, I was...
Dude, are you sneaking in a fourth right now? Are you...
No, this is the same game.
No, I was saying like, because you said more when Mass Effect KOTOR 2, Dude, you're sneaking fourth, dude. Which is it? Which is it?
Oh, okay. No. I was gonna say Mass Effect 3. I agree with you. That was a good game, but this one I think trumps it. Anyway,
Fighting words.
this probably means I went on too long, but
No.
I was just saying that game was good. I like Lord of the Rings, and that made me like that game a lot. I don't know if I recommend you play it, but it was.
Dude, it was great. I don't know if it's for you.
I want to talk about.
I don't play too many RPGs, but that one touched me. That one touched me.
I want to talk about real quick about the story and something you said. It calls back to something we talked about before. Nick was the one that said this. I believe you were shitting on Halo 4 or Halo 5 at the time, but you said something about just don't that's fine. Just don't do Master Chief. And what you said was interesting, that they had like a side cast, the B team of Lord of the Rings. And there's been a few games that have done that, and I think they've all. And I don't want to go too far out of it because RPGs, I know.
Yeah, like Mass Effect
But I find
Andromeda.
that interesting. That's we mean B team and characters, not the B development team.
Oh man! Shots fired. Rolled,
Sorry, guys.
roasted.
I couldn't resist. He laid it out there. I had to slam it.
Rolled and smoked,
anyway,
dude.
I don't know if you ever played the Godfather video game or Enter the Matrix, but both of them, where I thought they succeeded, particularly the Godfather game, and the Matrix game was good too, is that they were a spin-off. They weren't, like the Matrix game was not with Neo or Morpheus. It was actually with Jada Pinkett Smith's character from Reloaded and Revolutions, and I actually enjoyed it. It was a good game because it didn't force itself into giving you a good story with the characters that you loved from the movie, or hated, whatever. And that's the same thing that I thought you were describing with that Lord of the Rings game. And I found that very interesting because I was like, wow, that's okay. Yeah, we're not, and then you said how they stumbled across the Balrog. That sounded really cool to me story-wise. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, you don't run into he would never do that we felt in a Halo 4 and 5.
Right.
Yeah, you don't run into that.
Yeah, like in the Godfather game, like I don't know how many of you have seen the Godfather, but if you have, in the scene where they go into the restaurant and oh god, and Michael Corleone goes into the bathroom to get the gun out of the toilet. Well, in the game, your character was the one that had to sneak and put the gun in the toilet before he got there, so that he could go get the gun.
That's a cool nod to the source material.
Yeah, it did really neat things like that, where it didn't try and change the story or add anything ridiculous, like, oh, you're the main character. No, you're just a side character who's kind of sneaking around while the events of the movie are going on. It's pretty neat.
I'm gonna move on and just ask you guys a couple questions. I noticed that all four of us kind of have, like, the games that we like are very similar in the way that they are, the way that they operate. Andreas, I'd say yours is a lot of lower dialogue and story, collector, gameplay focused. Frank is that Japanese style. I think Daniel and I both like the story driven, with a lot of like cool flashy stuff, and good characters. So what when you guys look for an RPG, or you hear about an RPG, what do you guys look for? What do you look for in an RPG? Personally, I know I can say for me, it's outside of it's like a stupid answer like, well, the rating of the game should be high. I look for an immersive experience that has a good like a character I can get into. A character I actually didn't mention this, but I just started replaying because I failed the first time with The Witcher 3, and I'm starting to dig it. I'm getting there. And it's just like, this guy's like, the first time I played it, I felt like I was missing out a lot of that story from 1 and 2, and I did a whole I watched some YouTube videos of playthroughs, and I also read the lore, and I'm just like, this guy's fucking badass. Just slowly starting to appreciate the character. And but for me, it's like I said, it's story driven, and it's definitely it's always gameplay driven. But for me, if I hear people raving about how just cool and immersive the universe is, I'm instantly intrigued. What about you guys?
For me, it's got to be, it's definitely the story. I think, especially with Japanese RPGs, I think there's an inherent grind with them. And
can I interrupt you, as somebody who's never played a Japanese RPG outside of Pokemon, which I know is totally not what you're talking about? Can you give me, because I imagine there's some listeners out there who also don't really know what is that style? How would you differentiate that? I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I just am curious.
You're killing me. And I don't.
Maybe
I'm
Andreas
terrible.
can help here. I don't know.
He probably
Well,
can.
I have never played a single
Oh.
RPG
Is
game,
it
so
is it always turn based or is it just an art style? Or because when you say
it's an art style, I think.
go ahead, sorry.
I think
Yeah, there's an art style. A lot of the traditional ones were turn-based, but they've moved to a more active. Like, I think Final Fantasy 15 is still considered a Japanese RPG, and yet all of the battle is more active and more. It's in the world map. Like, you don't just previously you'd be wandering around a world map and then you get thrown into some sort of battle mode where you'd have options to select from, whether it's fight or run or use magic or use items or whatever. And that was the traditional battle system. And they've been evolving it over the years to where there's even now, even in Final Fantasy 15, there is a wait time where basically the game under the surface, it goes round robin in a way where it gives you and the enemies a turn to issue an attack or something of that nature. And it's really interesting how it's evolved over the years, because I actually, after Final Fantasy 7, I played Final Fantasy 8, and it felt very bloated to me, and it was very overwrought and just overwritten. It felt like a very huge game, and it really turned me off to RPGs for a very long time. And so having jumped back in with Final Fantasy 15, it's a really, that, and then a few years ago, like I said, Bravely Default, it's really interesting to see how things have evolved over the years to where there is more action, but that, that waiting, that turn-based stuff is still there. And I'm not even entirely sure what the real definition of a Japanese RPG is, but I know, that it's definitely a specific genre. That there's, the Final Fantasy series, Dragon Quest. There's now the Bravely Default series. I think Persona is a really popular series. Persona 5 just came out, and apparently it's really good. I want to check that out. That was another thing that happened in the last 2 weeks. I got a PS4, so I'm going to check that out. But yeah, I haven't done a really good job describing it, but it's my understanding is that, the turn-based stuff and the art style and the active wait time battle systems and things of that nature. That's what makes, a Japanese RPG. Whereas, I guess a Western RPG would be the style that they're taking it, where it's got leveling and weapons and gear and this and that, but it's, it's Skyrim. It's just an open world RPG where, you're just wandering around doing whatever you want. But
I feel like the boss fights fit into that too a little bit in the stylized.
yeah, are there boss fights in some of the Western RPGs?
Not that I can really think of outside of huge.
No, yeah, that's a good point.
Because like
Yeah, and
I
then
played,
there's
I guess I
and then
played
there's always
Bloodborne.
Dungeons.
I played
Right. There's
Bloodborne, which was
dungeons and-
RPG, which was Japanese Dark Souls, basically.
But yeah, in
Yeah,
Japanese
what-
RPGs, there's dungeons with bosses and sub-bosses.
Dark Souls is
all sorts
Japanese
of
too.
stuff.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
from the
it's
same
Yeah.
from
Oh.
the company.
Dude, have you played Bloodborne, man? It's way more Japanese than Dark Souls is. Just in like because it's in Japan, isn't
What
it?
is that?
What? No, Bloodborne
No,
is
it's not.
it's in fucking like in London.
No,
in,
dude.
I
Hold
don't
on.
Yeah,
know.
it's a fictional town in
1800s.
London, right?
Yeah, I think you're talking about Neo. They came out, but that's not.
I didn't play that, dude. All right. Anyway.
Right. And real quick, the best thing I can find is, and I think I came very close to it, is I think Western RPGs, it's a lot of open-ended, go anywhere, do anything, Skyrim style, do whatever you want. Whereas if Breath of the Wild is considered an RPG, and I don't think it is, it's just that hey, you can go whatever, do what you want. Whereas Japanese RPGs it's about the battle systems, it's about the narrative, and that's a big difference between the two.
That's what I'm reading online. People are saying it's more linear and narrative focused usually with JRPGs. But Frank, I was curious, what did you mean exactly by the Final Fantasy VIII? How it felt over bloated? Were you talking about like the battle system?
No, the battle system was fine. It was iterative of 7, and I don't know if I was just changing my taste at the time or what, but it was just like I remember playing through 6 and 7, and they were long games, 40 hours, 20, 30, 40 hours, however long they were. But it was just like, I don't know, with 8, the world and everything in it and everything going on just felt too big at the time for me. And I'd probably go back. I'd probably enjoy it, but I also remember like you started at a school, and it's funny. I remember hardly anything else. I don't even remember the main character's name, but I remember the school. It was named Balam Garden, and there were all these different gardens all over the world. And I think the headmaster turned out. Well, I'm heading into spoilers territory, but for a 15-year-old game. But anyway, I don't know. It just felt like it took forever to get anywhere, to get going, and that was some of the same problems that people ran into with the Zelda series later on. I mean, if I get to it, I think Twilight Princess had hours of tutorial type stuff at the beginning of the game, and it turned a lot of people off. And it was brutal. And because they were what you found out is they were teaching you at the beginning of the game how to fight the final boss. And when that clicked at the end of the game, it was like, oh, I get it. And it was a cool moment, but it was like, I didn't need to spend hours doing that. So, and I think that's part of what really turned me off in Final Fantasy VIII, that it just took forever to get going. Whereas in 6 and 7, you jumped right into the action, you got going, and yeah, sure, the game was long, the narrative was deep, and you were playing it for tens of hours. But with 8, it just took forever to get going, and so that by the time the game got rolling, I didn't care anymore. And I think that was what I meant. It just felt too bloated, too full of itself. Like they were coming off, they had just became widely popular across the globe for the first time with Final Fantasy VII, and I think they tried to do too much in that game. And like I said, I stopped playing those games for years after that.
Mm.
Any other comments on what you look for in an RPG, guys, before we move on to the next question?
For me, it's the RP side of games mostly, because I love just role-playing in my games, make my own stories instead of having one told to me. So Mass Effect is out of the question, for example, but a game like Oblivion, for example, kind of works. Not the best, but
so you probably like Skyrim less, right? Because that was more story-driven.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the technology. Oh, sorry, Andreas. I was gonna say I'm still waiting for the technology for people to actually for you to be able to write a name into an RPG, and then for it to try to say it instead of just be greetings, Warrior Daniel, and it'd be it's you're actually in the game and it actually sounds like they're actually saying your name. For me, that would be the mecca of immersion. Anyway, Andreas, continue.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I literally have documents on my computer of backstories and stuff I've made for characters that I use in all kinds of different games because I think it's so much fun.
I'm going to snag this incredible opportunity to segue because you guys are talking about the next question already, if that's okay with you guys.
No,
I've talked enough.
Which is what do you? Is there anything? And this is a broad question, so I figured we'd close with it. But was there any technology or anything that you hope that can be implemented in the next next 10 years, say, to make these games something that they leaps and bounds? If you look at Pokemon Blue, which is not by any means the first RPG at all, it's very old from the original idea. But let's just look at Pokemon Blue or one of those games versus what we got now in Skyrim, in Mass Effect. I mean, I'll even say Mass Effect Andromeda because there's so many options even though the game kind of flopped. In the Final Fantasy games that Frank's talking about, in Dark Souls, is there any technology or anything that you guys wish or are hopeful that this will happen in the future for this genre in general?
Well, I think they're starting to tinker with it now. Have you heard of a roguelike?
No.
Yep.
Andreas has, and it kind of sounds like something Andreas would like, where it's basically it's a dungeon crawler, and there's actually a game out for the Switch that came out a couple years ago that I want to play, and I think it's called The Binding of Isaac. And
that's a fun game, dude.
You played it?
Yeah, I haven't beat it. I played it. I played it with somebody who was insisting I play it.
Well, it's this concept, and kind of No Man's Sky did it too, and that's the tech, the procedurally generated stuff, where if you can find a way to where, I'm kind of building the story and the game just kind of randomly determines where I'm going next and what's going on, and gives me this incredibly large world that's could be unique for every person, or would be actually if it's procedurally generated. I think that is somewhere neat that where these games can go, where it doesn't always have to have, a perfectly, well thought out, well written story. I mean, it's important to me, but I think I'd be very interested in. Like I said, I'm looking forward to trying that game. I'm interested in this concept of I'm coming somewhere no one's ever been because it was randomly generated for me.
From my understanding, roguelike just means that if you die, you're dead, kind of deal. When it comes to those games, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that's yes.
Like they go hand in hand, procedure generated and
yes,
permanent death.
For me, it's any way to scan, not from a vain way, but to like somehow import your own face into an RPG like Mass Effect or Skyrim, or not because I'd much rather be handsome, more like actually handsome in the game, but at the same time, I think that it would really do a ton for my immersion to be like, that's me, that's what I do. I don't, that text a ways out, but it'd be really cool to see that, to just have you in the game, and somebody walks in and goes, dude, that's you. Yeah, I'm fighting aliens. That's really cool for me. And the other thing, like Daniel, you mentioned it, was the ability to have your actual, like the NPCs say your first name, and have it not be like, welcome back, Frank. It's good to see you today. Dude, like have it be actual, like, cause I gotta be a way to do a text-to-speech software and have like the way that somebody, because text-to-speech is getting more and more complicated, and people are actually doing it. I mean, if you look at Windows 10, like Cortana and stuff, like she can say some pretty interesting stuff when you type it up and they want it to say it. So I'm hoping that in the future they're able to make that so that like a voice actor, like let's say Keith David is doing a voice of a character and he's able to say like, welcome back, Andreas. Like, it's good to have you with us. We need help. Like, that'd be fucking awesome to me. I don't know why. Like, that and faceless scanning would be so cool. Yeah. So those are two things for me. Also, while I'm talking, I'm really excited for Destiny 2, because not so much on the MMO side, but the RPG side. I think RPGs are the games that have the potential to offer the most. If you look at and I'm not talking about MMOs, but if you look at Dark Souls multiplayer, from what I understand of it and what I've seen you play of it, Andreas, like there's really cool elements where there is a multiplayer aspect, but it's not inherently a multiplayer game. And you actually were joking about how you get punished for it, right? but like if you look at what Destiny has, like this like cool, like, oh my god, can I get an RPG FPS and a social great multiplayer? Like that would be incredible. And I think that the future of games is games are going to offer a lot more, but the problem is, and recently I feel like Mass Effect Andromeda is the one that flopped because of them trying to make everybody happy. So there's a balance of them, trying to be everything, but at the same time, like, I think games can offer more and more. I just don't think that technology is quite there yet, but I would love to have a game that has an awesome RPG element, has an awesome PvP element, has co-op missions, and I think any one of these RPGs we've talked about, something like it could really thrive in that environment. So I don't know. That's another that gets a little bit into the MMO discussion, which will be a different topic for another one of our best ofs. But any guys got anything else for technology? Open floor.
Like you said, RPGs can like make the most, but it can also fail the most, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But one thing I hope they remove from future RPGs is all the handholding that you get nowadays in almost every RPG.
Oh, I'm afraid that's here to stay, man.
Yeah, I know.
I get it, though.
I just wish.
No, it's like I was talking about in Morrowind before. It's like they didn't do that, but then more and more, it's just, I think it's a plague across games, but I agree.
That's why I like Dark Souls so much, because they just, here's the world, go. It will give you a few button tutorials at the beginning. That's about it.
I know I keep referencing it over and over and over again, but there may be hope for this yet, because believe me, people are ranting and raving about that exact fact with Breath of the Wild. and that it should be a standard for these types of games moving forward, and that open world games that are in development, these guys should be looking at this and seeing what they did. Little things, like where you remember in every Assassin's Creed game, you climb a tower, and all of a sudden there's 50 icons on your map that just either drive you nuts or drive your OCD up a wall, or the completionist in you. You climb up a tower, and the game says, it even tells you, look around. You see anything interesting? Mark it on your map if you want to go there. At the beginning of the game, it gives you nothing. It gives you 4 very basic shrines that give you, hey, here's a skill, take it, here's how you use it, go have fun. And it doesn't tell you anything. It gives you very basic story keys, and they talk about these things called weenies. Apparently they use them, Imagineers at Disney World use these things where, when you first walk in through the gates, the first thing you see, the first weenie is the princess's castle. You see that castle, you want to go to it. You want to see, what's going on there. And that's what this game uses. And I really, truly think anybody developing an open world game, an open world RPG, or any RPG or anything would be well suited to dial back, because that's a lesson Nintendo learned. Like I said, they were very bad on Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword was back. Dial back the hand-holding. I agree with you 100%. And I think that this game and how highly acclaimed it is will give us hope for that, because they'll see how much people love that and say, oh, okay, we can dial that back. Okay, we will. Sure.
I think it's it was somebody that was talking about Zelda, and one of the praises of it, of Breath of the Wild, which Frank, I want you to know that I actually plan on getting it, because there's a couple other releases that I saw for the Switch, so I'm like, okay, I could get down. And then that's something I can get into.
There we go.
But I'll let you guys know when I do that. You'll just get constant text from me though of like, so when is that necessary? But
just make sure you watch my entire Zelda series. Cheap plug. Make sure you watch my series before you play the game, so you have the full history.
Dude, I am. But the main thing I think that it was like praised for, not the main thing. One of the things I read that caught my attention was it. Unlike games recently, it treats the player like they're intelligent. Which I was like, that hasn't happened to me since Portal, to be honest with you. Yeah. Like I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of games. I saw you watching I was watching you play the Talos Principle, Shazam, and I was like, God, that game. Like, it might be because I jumped into the middle of a puzzle game, so stuff wasn't introduced to me slowly. Yeah, but I was like, that looks fucking mind-breakingly difficult. But I think that's something that I would love to see too, is the RPGs that don't treat. I mean, that's part of the. I don't think I'll ever play it, but that's part of the appeal of like the Dark Souls series. When I see Andreas playing them, is like they look like they're not very handholdy. Am I wrong on that?
No, they're not handholdy at all. You get like, here's how you roll, here's your attack, go.
Go nuts, kid. Yeah,
and then they chop your hand off, literally.
Yep.
But I think that's. But I guess those are some things that we're all excited for. Is there anything else you guys wanted to comment for, like hopes for upcoming games, RPGs?
No, nothing I can think of.
No, I think we covered it pretty good.
I do say anytime anybody asks me that question about every time we do this, I'm gonna say I want a co-op campaign. I'm gonna say that because I love co-op campaigns.
Yes, so do I.
But so we're about done here. I just wanted to ask you guys if we could just go around the table, if you will, the imaginary table. What is it that makes these games great? And that's so tough, and it's going to be hard not to answer without a paragraph. But the more specific question I'd ask is, what is the appeal of an RPG? Like, if somebody's listening right now and only likes FPSs, why should they give RPGs a shot? I can start to kind of set the tone if you guys would like. I would say that RPGs allow for an escape from reality, and they also allow for the same reason that movies and TV series and books can be so good and distracting is because you get to go somewhere that doesn't have the stresses of life, and you get to go somewhere and do something that you'll never really get to do, and you get to live vicariously through this character for a short amount of time. So if you like adventure, but you also like progression and that feeling of getting something, I say like that's what the appeal is of these games are for me. You guys don't have to go, but I'm gonna open it up. If Shazam, if you have anything to add.
I think that the concept of escapism is pretty comprehensive, but the other thing that I get from RPGs, and trying to think of somebody who doesn't do RPGs, who does like shooters and stuff. My first question is, do you care about story that much? Like how much does that factor in? I think if you can appreciate a story, then RPG is definitely for you. But the thing I get the most out of it, besides just escapism, is an opportunity to express myself in a video game. In a shooter, you're a guy, and you stay being the guy. You can do the weapons. And these days, and all the latest Halo, latest Call of Duty, you can decorate your weapon. You can, put a ball sack on it or whatever, and it's become uniquely yours, quote unquote. But in RPG, it's a chance to pick between usually a bunch of different ways to approach a situation, and you can have a different class. You can come in and be a wizard or a stealth archer or a warrior that charges in, and you can adjust your skills accordingly, or you can have different options for how to approach something. Like in Mass Effect, you can be good or you can be bad. And just having that ability to have choice in not just dialogue options, but in how you approach both in space, if you're coming through from the back or from the front to get to the situation, if you're going to kill this guy or not kill this guy. All these different things, they open up avenues for you to decide what kind of person you are in this world. And I find that adds to the escapism, but it also just is a benefit of its own, being able to decide what kind of thing you are in here, because it allows you to express your personality.
Yeah. Cool. Anything from Frank?
Yeah. I actually got lost in how good that was.
Yeah, that was really good, Daniel. That was good. Really good.
That really summed it up pretty well.
Sign me up for that class.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's generally when I hear RPG, I know almost always I'm gonna get a long form narrative. I'm gonna get many hours of gameplay. If I know I hear the words Japanese RPG, I know exactly what I'm getting into. Focus on mechanics and battle systems and narrative. And these days, you hear RPG, you're gonna get probably between 20 and 60 or more. I mean, my goodness, every time I look back and realize that I played over 100 hours of Fallout 4, I'm blown away because I didn't think I put that much time into it. But, these modern day RPGs, it's many hours of gameplay. And that's what it is for me. It's like I have, as long as the game is at least reasonably functional and rewarding, and the grind is rewarding. I mean, speaking of grind, Destiny, I mean, I put up with that.
What grind?
So, yeah, I put up with that grind in year one, so I can deal with some grind. So as long as it's somewhat rewarding, that I know what I'm getting into, and that's many hours of gameplay. For my $60, I want to know that I'm going to get either an incredibly intensive shooter that I love, or if it's an RPG, I want to know I'm going to get hours of fun.
It's an investment.
You get your money's
Yeah.
worth. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like if I bought an RPG and I was in and out of there in 8 hours, are you kidding me? I mean, it had to be really good. South Park is a really good example of that because I think that was only an 8 to 12 hour game, but it was good. And if you like the show, and it got very vulgar at times, but if you like the
South
show,
Park?
yeah. Well, I mean, vulgar, problematic. It checked all the boxes, but it was fun. And graphically, that cartoon is what it is. You felt like you were controlling the cartoon. It looked just like it, and it was a lot of fun. It was short, but it was a lot of fun. So it's got to be one or the other. It's just got to be a lot of story, or it's got to be an incredibly good mechanic and narrative that makes it worth. Okay, yeah, it was only 10 hours, but it was a hell of a lot of fun.
True that. Andreas, anything to add?
Except for all the escapisms that has already been mentioned. I like loot. I'm a loot whore in every RPG I
There
ever
will
play.
be a ton of
I want-
loot.
I need
Ah!
I need one of everything. If it's a unique item, I need it. If it's not a unique item, I need to keep it just in case. If I ever lose it,
Dude, just
I need to have one of each.
oh man, the collector,
Just-
dude. You're like
They're
that
just
guy.
hoarding everything.
You're like
Yeah.
that
You
guy
just buy
from
buy a place in Skyrim, just to, like, stack all the jewels and all the swords and
Andreas
stuff.
is like
so you
that
can look at 'em.
guy. He's like that
Yep,
guy from.
and I don't tell them. I put them in a jewel box.
You just gotta keep him.
Yeah, put them in a jewel case, just open it up and close it every once in a while.
You're like that character from Guardians of the Galaxy, the collector. You have like one. You're like, oh, look at this, like a rare,
I wouldn't know.
rare item. Let me. It's a rusty fork. I'll put it with here, and it'll be my rusty fork.
I wouldn't know. I haven't seen that movie.
That's okay. I'm just giving you a hard time, man. All right, that's a great light note to end on.
Yeah.
You guys want to go around? Where can we find you, Shazam?
I'll be back on Sunday evening at probably 9 playing Talos Principle. I'm going to try to do it for a couple hours. My channel is twitter.com/Shazam32, like you said. But I'll be streaming off Legacy Gamescast.
You meant Twitch.com, right?
Did I say Twitter?
Twitch.tv, yeah.
Twitch.com. Twitch.tv. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Frank?
Cool. Yeah. I will definitely be on every Friday by around 9:30 Eastern, streaming something. Most likely for now, it'll definitely be Destiny. I'm also going to be continuing my Zelda series whenever I have time. My schedule's really hard to pin down, so I really don't have one right now. But I'm hoping to do it almost every day, but it's just not going to happen right now. So just follow me on Twitch. It's Given a Fly 1021. Word Given has no vowels in it, and it's also the same name I use on Xbox Live, PSN, Twitter. You can find me everywhere with that same name. But yeah, every Friday night on the Legacy Gamescast Twitch channel, I will be streaming.
Nozzle, Andreas?
You can find me on Twitter at Norzul, with NARHZUL. And next week on either Wednesday or Thursday, I'll do a Sherpa stream for the Kingsfall 390 Lite version on Destiny.
Cool.
So
I'd love
if
to see
anyone
that.
wanna hop on, then
When are
just
you doing
come
it?
along
When are you going to do it?
at 6 or 7 CET.
I'm
Central
probably
European.
too low. I'm probably too low light level to even consider that, aren't I? Like,
Yeah.
you couldn't ship. Yeah, okay.
And if you do it at 6, I could probably join you. That could be fun.
We'll see. It depends on how fast I get people together
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I'm gonna post on the Sherpa Reddit and on every site I can find.
Right.
Get
Okay.
as many people that haven't done it as possible instead of people that have done it.
Yeah, let me know, because if we get good players that have done that before, we could run through it pretty quickly.
Cool. I am at Sovereign Dude on Twitch, or Twitch TV/Sovereign Dude on Twitter. You can find me at Nixonbau. That's NIXENBAUGH. That's my first and last name mushed into one name. And my computer's giving me issues, so I probably won't be streaming this week, unfortunately. But I will try my best to be on by next week, and I'll give you guys a time frame. You can find all of our combined content at LegacyGamesCast. That's games plural. On YouTube, Legacy Gamescast on Twitch, Twitch TV/Legacy Gamescast, and then lastly, you can email us at legacygamescast@gmail.com. And that sums it up. Next week, we'll be doing another one of our top 10s. We'll announce what it is. We have quite a few lined up. We're just trying to decide which ones to do in which order. So until then, it's been a pleasure, and thanks for stopping by. Until next time.
Bye bye.
Bye.